reassuring voice during tough times. They guide us through the events of our lives and explain the unexplainable. They are the pros. We feel like we know them. And the more we go through together, the more we do.
Akil from Medium wrote an interesting perspective on Pokemon Go and how some portions of the population get to enjoy and play the game in a way that maybe other portions of the population don't. So apparently he's concerned about people of color, black individuals specifically. Akil from Medium wrote an interesting perspective on Pokemon Go and how some Akil from Medium wrote an interesting perspective on Pokemon Go and how some portions of the population get to enjoy and play. Akil from Medium wrote an interesting perspective on Pokemon Go and how some portions of the population get to enjoy and play the game in a way that maybe other portions. Akil from Medium wrote an interesting perspective on Pokemon Go and how some portions of the population get to enjoy and play the game in a way that maybe other portions of the population don't. So apparently he's Akil from Medium wrote an interesting perspective on Pokemon Go and how some portions of the population get to enjoy and play the game in a way that maybe other portions of the population don't. So apparently he's concerned about people of color, black individuals specifically, playing Pokemon in a public place and appearing to be suspicious when in reality they're doing something as innocent as playing this game. He says, I spent less than 20 minutes outside. This is when he was playing his game. 5 of those minutes were spent enjoying the game. 1 of those minutes I spent trying to look as pleasant and non-threatening as possible as I walked past a somewhat visibly disturbed white woman on her way to the bus stop. I spent the other 14 minutes being distracted from the game by thoughts of the countless black men who have had police called on them because they look suspicious, or wondering what a Second Amendment exercising individual might do if I walked past their window a 3rd or 4th time in search of a Jigglypuff. So that's a really interesting perspective that I didn't really think of. So these are people who are going out in public places to play the game, right? That's the way it works. And for someone who doesn't know about Pokemon, doesn't think of Pokemon as the first thing, they might see an individual maybe pacing around, looking around, and think, oh my gosh, that person is super suspicious. And remember, you see something, say something. And who knows what that could possibly lead to. So, I don't know. It's really interesting.
This is one guy's experience, so we're not trying to over-extrapolate from this. But the reason why I found this story interesting is because even I didn't, and I try every day on the show to see something from other people's perspective, right? And we talk about it all the time. And yesterday, John and I covered a Pokemon story, and we were worried about all the different dangers. You might walk on the road, people aren't going to be paying attention. They're going to be driving and looking for Pokemon. And so there's a bunch of, and people get lured into certain places and robbed. That was a story we did yesterday. But I didn't think of this. And so when I read this, I was like, oh my God. See, if I walked around aimlessly, which I did the other night, I just wanted to walk around my neighborhood. I walked around. Didn't have a care in the world. If you were an African-American guy my age or younger, walking around the same neighborhood with somebody who called the cops on, if you're playing this Pokemon Go game and you're walking back and forth, as all these guys are, 3 or 4 times in the same area, if you're white, it might not be an issue, but it might.
Akil from Medium wrote an interesting perspective on Pokemon Go.